Hello, my darlings, and welcome back to Conversations with My Higher Self. Today, we're talking about life path numbers again, and today we are up to life path number 7. This one has been requested many, many times, and I am so thrilled to be talking to you about this today. Before we dive in, a couple of housekeeping items. My audiobook, or shall I say my book, is out on audio, on Audible specifically. It is called 72 Keys to Manifestation, or An Ancient Path of a Modern Day Alchemist. This is a beautiful book. It's a 72-day journey on manifesting your best life. It has a lot of practical information, something you can apply to your daily life, a lot of rituals, a lot of meditations to help bring forth the life that you want. It has a lot of ancient knowledge that has been lost on the face of the planet Earth. And it is my great desire that you experience that in an audio format because it is this book is really perfect for audio. I'm not going to lie, so I hope that you check it out. Also, join my growing community on YouTube. I'm at This Is Maria with a Y, Mariya. Yeah, there is obviously a way to ask questions on YouTube, and I try to get back to folks on there. And come meditate with me on Our Sacred Universe on my Heart-Filled Space podcast. We upload meditations there every week. Yes, so it is, I hope that you join me there. Alrighty, my darlings, now straight to life path 7. All right, so it's been some time since we spoke about life path numbers. If you need a little bit of a refresher, please refer to life path number 1. That episode that I did has a really good background on what life path numbers are, how to calculate your own, and some of the other foundational knowledge that you need in order to move forward. If you already know that you're a life path 7 or know somebody that is a life path 7, then you've come to the right place. Also, the question that I get sometimes is, hey, so is my life path an end all be all? Is it something that really is a predicament, or do I get to escape that? And one thing to remember and to keep in mind is this. A life path number is, in numerology, is just like your sun sign in astrology. Your sun sign in astrology is just an iota of what you are as a human. It's just like essentially one star, the position of one star in the sky when you're born. There's so much more to your life than that one number. Even within the numerology, the life path number is just like the first layer. It's not the entirety of the layers of the layered cake. So don't expect your life path number to tell you full life story or be, specific, like laser point specific surgical to your circumstance. It's still an overgeneralization because, hey, there are only so many numbers. There are, 12 essentially. And of course, if you divide the entirety of humanity into 12 buckets, you're going to have to overgeneralize. But, with that disclaimer out of the way, why don't we dive into life path number 7? I love life path 7. This is such a special path. Now, if you have been following the series along, you know that I divide the 9 life path numbers, 1 through 9, into 3 major categories: the masculine ones, the feminine ones, and the alchemical ones. Now, take this with a grain of salt. You can come in any body and identify as any gender to experience these life paths. When I say masculine, or feminine for that matter, all we're saying is at one point within the universe, the duality between the masculine and the feminine polarity got created. And the energy got evenly split arbitrarily, if I may say so myself. It has been arbitrarily split between these 2 polarities. One is not better than the other. They're just different. And anybody who is a life path 7 has come here to exercise, to learn, to develop the masculine side of their being, of their soul. Just like somebody with a life path 1 and a life path 4. Specifically, there are a lot of similarities, and you will notice that between the life path 1 and the life path 7. A lot of similarities, but they're not quite the same. Because one thing that we have to understand is with every, essentially as you go up the ladder, as you go from 1 through 9, there's different gradients of mastery. And 7 is supposed to be the masterful masculine, meaning it is the masculine pass through the lessons of 1 and the lessons of 4 to emerge as a 7. That is why a 7 may exhibit some of the qualities of the 1 and the 4. And that is another question that I have been asking, because some people are like, well, it kind of does seem like some of my qualities are with another number. Everything in the universe is interrelated and interconnected, right? Nothing exists in isolation. So if you recognize yourself in another number, it does happen. Now, let's talk about the 7. The 7 is the number of talent. The 7 is the number of a God-given skill. The 7 life path is also a missionary because of the talent situation, right? So it's a person on a mission. If you come here as a 7, make no mistake, you did not come here to be on the bleachers, to be in the background. You did not come here to take society, take the rules, regulations, and everything at face value and just sit down and watch everything transpire. You have come here bearing an incredibly active genome, so to say, and a very incredible, like a very active, the energy that makes up your being is the energy in a very active state. And that is kind of like the blessing and the curse of a 7. Because on the one hand, 7s tend to be very active, very out there, very curious. They want to experience life. They want to taste life. They want to, be in a lot of different places. So FOMO, fear of missing out, is very much a 7 type of characteristic. But another thing that is kind of like the curse of this is you may have trouble focusing. You may have trouble finding your path. You may have trouble staying in or committing to things, or staying in relationships for a long time, or staying at a job for a very long time, or sticking to something. There is a little bit of that busy mind syndrome. And 7 is definitely the number of the intellect. And it is also a number of the philosopher. But philosopher, not necessarily meaning that philosophy is going to be your vocation. Like you're not going to be a philosopher for a living. But there's something to the 7 that is incredibly introspective. And I love 7s because they're great synthesizers. I totally just mispronounced that. But what that means is they're able to take a lot of separate pieces, separate particles of, that they see in their vicinity, and then combine them in a way that makes sense and paints like a broader picture. And that's why 7s have a very beautiful strategic analytical mind that can solve pretty complex issues for humanity. And that is where we get to the talent of the 7. There are a lot of people, like I said, with very special talents, a lot of innovators, a lot of scientists, a lot of people who are rule breakers in a sense of they're pushing something forward. They're developing a particular field of study, of learning, and they're searching for that next discovery. So there are a lot of seekers in the number 7. Now, the challenge of number 7 is finding your talent, recognizing your talent, and sticking with the life path that talent unfolds in front of you. The challenge with a 7 growing up is very often they didn't take authority very, very well. Again, this is a similarity with 1, if you listen to Life Path 1. But for you, it was less about, sometimes it was with parents, but you really hated rules in like school and, any type of community where you were just made to do things, like you just hated it. Flat out, right? Hated it. So you do have a little bit of that, not even the rebellious, like an antagonistic streak in you. Because of that, it may or may not have been easy for you to recognize a talent. Because depending on how your life unfolded and depending on what kind of rules were set in front of you by, the educators and, the teachers, et cetera, you may have naturally stumbled upon your talent, or you may have not. And so it really depends for Life Path 7. I would say the lucky 7s are the ones that really understand what their talent is. Like, the things that are just so innate in you, like when you're a good writer, or when you're so good at math, or like that like the violin, you're playing the violin and you're like just so good at it. Like when that happens to a 7, they're like a blissful kid. They're like a happy kid. They're like, oh my God, totally get it. And they can devote the time, they can devote the space to hone in on that talent, right? Because despite the fact that you come with a very natural inclination, your talent is such that it's going to require a lot of blood, sweat, and tears for you to turn that into something. Yes, it is innate. And yes, you can go to very high, like the highest of the heights with it. But this is not an easy path. Life path 7 is not an easy path. Very often you come into a family where one of the parents is extremely strong-willed or opinionated or forceful. And it is like that parent wants to tug you along for the ride. And so you may have been coming up with a lot of resistance to that particular parent of yours that almost wanted to take your free will away. So there's a little bit of that pattern running with you when you were a kid. And depending on essentially how this major dichotomy, this major conflict in your life played out, you could have turned out a very, very different human. The best case scenario and the right path forward for a 7 is to realize that despite the societal pressure, despite what their parent wants them to do, regardless and irrespective of any of the outward noise, let's call it like it is, what they're meant to do is they're meant to find the peace within and their own journey and their own path through their special talent. So it's like that special talent that you have as a 7. It's like a beacon of light, or it's like a torch in the dark. And it really does shine the path forward for you. It is like tugging. It's tugging you towards like, hey, make a left here. Hey, pick up the phone, call that person. Hey, do this, do that, the other thing. It's like that talent of yours, that skill that is so unique to you. It is going to create like almost like an electric current pulling you into a particular direction, almost wanting you to take up your space or your place under the sun. And then there are all these antagonistic forces that don't want that to happen, or seemingly don't want that to happen, like a parent that maybe is not supportive or a teacher that's not supportive. And in whatever form or shape that comes, please know that those people that are the most antagonistic are the ones that help forge you the most, right? So very often as a 7, that one person that was antagonistic and didn't really want you to, become your own person, didn't really want you to do things your way, that is usually a sacred contract type of person. That is the person that you wanted to play that role for you. And so now, looking back at your childhood, looking back at your past, please look at it with a different set of lenses, look at it with a different set of eyes, because and be grateful, frankly, because being an antagonistic force for anyone is a pretty hard role to play. And so you have a lot to be grateful for whoever did that for you. Now, with 7s, you were probably an extremely active child. The problem is you were not equally active. There were like things that you really wanted to do and you had a ton of energy for that. And then there were things that you didn't want to do and you had absolutely zero energy for that. Like there was absolutely nothing on the face of the planet Earth that anybody could do to make you do certain things that you didn't want to do. With 7s, there's this, and your genius, your area of genius is also your biggest blind spot. With 7s, there's a little bit of an aura of being selfish. And that happens, and it's a big, big, big blind spot for the 7s because they think everybody's selfish. And while everybody is selfish, the 7 takes it to a whole other degree. But they're not doing it because they're vindictive. They're not doing it because they don't know any better. They're not doing it because they think everybody is like worse than them, or they're not standoffish at all. They're just in their own world. And that is what you would notice a lot with a 7. The 7 has a very active imagination. The 7 is a number of intellect, right? So you're extremely introspective and extremely philosophical, but you also have this ability to create a layer, like a world around you where it's like your world doesn't always match up with like everybody else's perspective. And it's like, there's so many examples of this, but like you may even have like memories of something happening because you live in like such, like you live in your own world. You almost like don't belong in some ways, that like even the memories that you have from your childhood or whatnot, like what you remember may not be what other people remember. because you lived in your own world and your perception was just so vastly different from reality and also from how other people view things. Or, another way how this could transpire is you could just be completely inattentive to the needs of others. Like, don't go to seventh for empathy because you're not going to get much. You may get them excited about things. You may, that's an optimist. It's a hard worker. Like, you may go to the seventh for all of those. Empathy, not their thing, right? And so sevens are actually, because they create this own like layer of their own reality around them, can sometimes live in like worlds that are completely made up. And I'm not saying they're like, what's the example of that? Like, sevens are the most likely people of anyone to have imaginary friends. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's actually really adorable, but like, that's a seven, right? Like, you could just get lost, like give a seven, like a room to play in and like, I don't know, some Legos. The seven is gone. For hours, right? And like, they're like launching rockets into space in their head. Like, they're doing all the things, right? Like, sevens really like solitude. They really don't worry about being alone. In fact, for them, the alone time is either a very productive time or a very good time because they can be brainy, they can be nerdy, they can dive deep, they can be inquisitive, they can go all the way. They are not afraid of that, of the loneliness, right? And that's why it's almost, a little bit of the mad scientist archetype. Don't want to offend anybody, but like, the reason mad scientists are so good at what they do is because they have a maniacal focus on like the one thing that they're here to like create or whatever, that they're here to download or bring to the planet, right? They're obsessive about this one thing. But you would also notice they're completely lackluster everywhere else, right? It's kind of like this big blind spot. And sometimes a seven, for that matter, would have a hard time staying engaged. Like, you probably hated parts of school, like some subjects probably hated, could not get, you to pay attention. Sevens are the most likely to have ADHD, by the way, because they're just like, their brain is very active, runs 1,000 miles a minute. And until you, again, like, the only thing you can obsessively focus on is something that has to do with your mission, that has to do with your life purpose. Everything else, you're going to have a hard time sticking to. Another thing with a seven is there can be challenges around relationships, including romantic relationships, not going to lie. Seven is fairly challenged there again, because sevens, they're very practical. They're very brainy, very smart, intellectual, introspective, all of the good stuff. But they're not necessarily able. They don't have the desire, shall I say, to put themselves in another person's shoes, to see something from another person's vantage point. Because their blessing is seeing things from their vantage point. That is what they came here to do, right? Like, shine the light as like a lighthouse. The seven is a lighthouse, right? Make no mistake. And that's why it's very challenging to be in a relationship with a seven, because they may come across as narcissistic without being narcissistic, by the way. They just may come across as self-centered, a little bit as selfish. And part of the reason is because there's so much in their head and creating their own world, there's not always space in that world for others. And that is why a seven could be challenged with relationships. They could be challenged with friendships also. All kinds of relationships, probably especially romantic ones, because with the romantic ones, there are so many expectations. And the seven is just, unless the seven wants to meet some types of expectations, which they usually don't, because they're kind of like, they want to be the law in and of themselves. They don't want anybody to give them, a rule book to follow. It's, unless they want to follow the rules, they're really, really hard to be in relationships with. Very challenging. Now, another thing I will tell you with the seven that is like a big theme that plays out is, despite the fact that they are genius level good at things, their level of self-confidence is not always there. Now, it doesn't mean that, and by the way, that lack of self-confidence may come in different shapes and sizes, not just one. It could be, just a fear of expressing yourself. That is very prevalent in the seven, like the speaking of the mind, or like afraid to make a mistake type of situation. It could be awkwardness in social context, but they're not the most confident people. Or rather, they are extremely confident when it comes to their talent. And then there are equally bad lapses in confidence elsewhere. And part of the reason is also sevens kind of like have like this unfortunate predicament of not learning very well from their past mistakes. And part of it again is a blind spot, because like when your spotlight is always shining ahead and like mission, talent, it creates a massive darkness everywhere else because all the light goes into that light spot. And very often that's why sevens can get stuck in this karmic loops over and over and over again, repeating the same mistake, like being stuck with the same kind of person, or just being, I don't know, always stepping on in the same mess. That's kind of like their challenge, like not being able to grow and move forward. So that feeling of stuckness. I will tell you this. What's the winning strategy for the seven? The winning strategy for the seven is finding your talent. That's the number one most important thing. Like I said, seven is a missionary. You came here with a mission. You have an incredible life purpose. You didn't get your talent, whatever that is, for nothing. It is a dead giveaway for what you're supposed to be doing with your life. Most likely, it needs to become a career. So you need to think really long and hard. You know, if you're the type of seven that already knows what your talent is, ask yourself, how can this thing that you can do very well help humanity the most? Or how can you best apply it yourself, right? If you do not know what your talent is as a seven, most likely it's going to be extremely hard for you to even understand why you showed up, because your talent is so interlinked with your life purpose. They're essentially one and the same. And so I think the most important thing for you is to go on a very beautiful, very fascinating discovery ride of what your talent is. Think back to your childhood. What were you naturally good at, or what was naturally piquing your curiosity? Because that's another thing with the talent of a seven. You are not innately, like, there are certain skill sets you have to practice, you guys, right? Like, nobody is born knowing how to ride a bicycle. Nobody is born knowing a foreign language. Nobody is born even knowing how to speak in the first place, right? So it's all like a learned game. And so in order for you to discover your talent, if you don't know what it is, ask yourself, what are you most curious about? And then go in the direction of that curiosity. Learn about it, study it, understand it, talk to people that get it. Watch YouTube videos on the topic. Do you know what I mean? Like, curiosity is going to lead you to that one talent, and that is going to lead you onto your path. Another thing that could be really, really helpful for the seven is, once you are able to understand what your talent is, and once you're going to be able to fully commit to it, like make that a career, because that's the direction you're going to be pulled into, your relationships are going to become better, because you need that sense of stability in your own life. And that sense of stability is your talent. And then it's like the trunk of the tree. And then everything around it, like everything can be built around it, right? It's going to be extremely hard for you to be successful in relationships, to have a loving family and like a really, really amazing marriage, if there is not a part of you that is self-actualized or is becoming self-actualized through applying yourself via the lens of your talent, right? So that is extremely, extremely important. And then allow yourself some creative chaos. Your mind is not meant to be organized. Your mind is not meant to be ruly, because that's the one thing about seven. Do you know some people, when you're telling them, oh, science and intellect and blah, 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 they're like, okay, well, this is the realm of logic, no intuition here. Wrong. For the seven, it is the opposite. The seven have an incredibly active crown center. What does that mean? That means that they're intuitive like nobody's business. And they get downloads on a daily. That's why a lot of sevens have headaches. Or shall I say, a lot of humanity has headaches. It's just sevens have disproportionately more headaches than other people. Part of the reason is because they're uploading all of these stuff into their crown center. They're not always able to process it. And so their brain is like forever busy. And when the brain is overly inundated with information, it can give you a headache. Where I'm going with this is, part of the reason that sevens are such amazing innovators, such amazing scientists, and they can really change industries, is because they're tapping into the cosmos, the greater cosmos. Because of that, they're kind of, I hate to say this, but, or maybe I'd love to say this, you're forever plugged into and constantly plugged into the Akashic records, right? The informational field of all that is. And that is a blessing, you guys. Some people are trying to connect for ages and they can't, right? And that's another part. Like when you are connected to the greater informational field, everything is, and the kitchen sink isn't there. So don't expect to be orderly, ruly, and organized in your thinking patterns. That is not going to happen. So allow parts of your life to be chaotic. Don't try to and you will notice that the more you allow the chaos to go in certain parts of your life, it would disappear from other parts of your life. I'll give you a quick example. A 7 cannot maintain order in all things. Like it needs that creative chaos, right? So if your working desk is messy, that means that your relationships can be clean and orderly and nice and committed. But if your desk is neat, then that chaos is going to have to go into your relationships. I guess the reason I'm giving you the desk as an example is because there are two most important parts of the life of a 7, and that's their career and that's their essentially romantic relationships. As a general rule, if you're trying to clean up both, you can't. You're going to have a mess in one areas of those lives, of your life, in one of those areas. What do I mean by a mess? A mess doesn't mean that your career is nowhere. It just means that you're allowing yourself some creative chaos in there. Whether that is like 20 sticky notes piling on top of one another, or some random objects that you found because they made you think of that other thing that you thought, and that somehow it got deposited on your desk on top of 3 coffee mugs and 6 issues of the New York Times from 3 years ago. It doesn't matter, because that is your creative genius. That's how your genius operates. So just understand that there need to be parts of your life that need to be in constant chaos. I hate to say this, and you need to be okay with that. So it's okay to be messy in some things. Messy in relationships and with other people, probably wouldn't recommend that, because that is your greatest karmic lesson, is the romantic relationships. You have this same merry-go-round of not being able to be fully there. Sevens have a challenge with listening. So practice active listening, right? Practice paying attention to what your other half is telling you. Although you may want to run away and hide and not want to be in their feelings and their emotions, but practicing active listening is going to help you get out of karmic zones, karmic knots. And another thing, be okay with facing your feelings. That's another thing. Sevens really pretend. They like pretending and tucking their feelings away somewhere and oh, that feeling is not real. It does not exist. No, I hate to say this, it's real. And so you, out of all people, could benefit from allowing yourself to feel. So working with your sacral chakra, which is your the spot where a lot of your emotions go, instead of tucking them away, right? So just get comfortable with feeling. Just because you're feeling something doesn't make you a strange person or a bad person. In fact, it's normal, it's human. I love a 7, you guys. When you are on a mission, you are unstoppable. When you apply your talent, masterpieces get created. It is awe-inspiring and awe-inducing. You can shift society, not just not your family, not your community, but large scale things. We're talking big industries, we're talking big shifts, big changes. And know that another thing about a 7 is once you step onto the right path, you become terribly lucky. One thing that you may have noticed in your life is sometimes things just drop into your lap out of nowhere. It's some people have to work for it, and for you, sometimes you just drop on your lap. And you're in manifesting. Sometimes you can manifest things really, really quickly also, comparatively. And please know that the more you invest in finding your talent, finding your path, finding your North Star, and taking action, because 7 is about action. It's not about just thinking about it. It's about doing the deeds, right? Walking the walk, not just talking the talk. You would notice that you would naturally align yourself with the most optimal path that is the path of least resistance for you, but also the path of the most wealth, right? And so actually the one like dead giveaway that you're on the right path is if you just start getting lucky, like a streak of luck. If you're experiencing that, that means that, okay, like you're moving closer to where you need to go. All right. Well, I hope this was helpful. And if not, at least it was fun. That's it on life path number 7. Sending you a big virtual hug. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, loves.